Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
What's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Thursday. Glad you could join us. Jam-packed show for you. A lot to get to. And, yeah, we're also excited because we are moving our show. We're staying here, don't worry, but we're moving our show 9 a.m. to noon starting August 12th. And a lot of people ask me, well, who's going to be replacing your 2 hours? Well, guy's going to be in studio. His name is Steve Sanchez, nationally syndicated host. He's going to be joining us in studio, staunch Republican. I think that's fair to say. So he'll be coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Coming up here in a few minutes, BBC analyst Amy Vanderpool. And in hour number 2, Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. Now, I want to start off by talking about the latest Donald Trump press conference today. He spoke to the press. Donald Trump disavowed, at least he claims, the chant. So I want to play for you Donald Trump in his own words. When asked about this chant, here was his response.
President, if I may, when your supporters last night were chanting, send her back, why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you ask them to stop saying that?
Well, number one, I think I did. I started speaking very quickly. It really was a loud, I disagree with it, by the way, but it was quite a chant, and I felt a little bit badly about it. But I will say this, I did, and I started speaking very quickly, but it started up rather fast, as you probably noticed.
I started speaking very quickly. Oh, by the way, he said he feels a little sorry. Okay, so let's go back to the chant. Let's see if he's telling the truth. Shocker, folks, he's not. Here is the actual chant when he starts speaking, when the chant starts. You tell me if he thinks he starts speaking quickly.
And obviously and importantly, Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
That sounds to me like a long pause, does it not? 13 seconds, he stood there like a fool. For 13 seconds, like a fool, he just stood there and did absolutely nothing. Nothing. Now, let me show you what a leader sounds like. Let me show you when someone stands up, whether it's a chant or says something stupid, here is what I would call a quick response. And by the way, Trump didn't even respond. He didn't say anything. Here is a quick response. This was John McCain when he was running for president against Barack Obama.
I got to ask you a question. I do not I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
That is what leadership looks like. That is what I call a quick response. He takes the microphone right from her immediately and says, no, ma'am, because let's be honest, she was a racist with that remark. He's an Arab. She's an imbecile. John McCain handled that perfectly and honorably. Honorably. Donald Trump stood there, and Donald Trump did nothing for 13 seconds. Is that leadership? Well, we have the perfect person to talk to about this, because I'll tell you, for the last couple of days, my blood's been boiling about this. John McCain showed leadership in that situation. Donald Trump did nothing but stand there for 13 seconds. Woman we have with us on the line right now, not only is she a BBC analyst, also writes for Shapiro newsletter on Substack.com, also a contributor to Playboy magazine. And believe it or not, I actually do read the articles. I know people joke about that, but they have some great writers there at Playboy. That is the truth. Joining us on the line right now, Amee Vanderpool. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Amy.
Hi. I'm
Thanks.
great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. Okay, so what I just did there is I played, John McCain at that moment where he grabs the microphone from that lady who calls Obama an Arab. And that was right. That was leadership. I think we all could agree on that. He's a good man, and I think he did the right thing there. So what do you make of Donald Trump today saying that he disavows this chant, right? And then he says, well, I did my best to, I talked over it. I kept going. He didn't. He's lying. He waited 13 seconds. I just played the audio. What do you make of this?
Well, he doesn't disavow it clearly because his actions say otherwise. He's just doing that to placate. I'm not sure who he's trying to placate with that lie, but nobody buys it. And the fact that Brad Parscale, the person who's running his campaign, said today that they're doing this purposely to kind of rally the base because they know that they can't work on outreach to get any new voters to come in. They know that that's just not going to work for them. So their only chance moving forward is to make sure that his 40% that stays solid no matter what he does, that they turn out in record numbers and that they turn out for him and that the Democrats somehow just can't get the turnout that they need to beat him because it's really all they have left.
What do you make of people on the right when talked about this chant or maybe the things that Donald Trump said, which I think were racist when he says, get out of our country if you don't like it here, so on and so forth. And then a lot of Republicans will just say, well, some of them will say, well, I don't necessarily agree. And then they just move on to Omar Ocasio-Cortez and just deflect. What do you make of that? Because I see that. Do you see that? Because I see that happening everywhere.
Sure, I really do. I wrote about it this week, actually, on my Shapiro Substack newsletter. I talked about how the reality behind that is that the GOP people now that really don't like what Trump's doing, but they feel like they have to abide by it because they're scared of him, are motivated by the big money backers that are still running them. They're not running Trump because Trump is speaking directly to the base. He's accessed them on a direct level that they love and that they really respond to. But the big money backers like the Koch brothers are still funding all of the other GOP. And they know that in order to keep their funding, they have to defend Trump because the reality is the Koch brothers rely on this base that's now following Trump to kind of do their bidding as well. So they're stuck. They're absolutely stuck. And the fact that they're deflecting by first, did you notice how at the beginning of the week they tried to make a socialist argument?
Yes.
Well, it's socialists really doing this, right? Because that's their dog whistle. Oh, socialism is bad because the people who follow Trump don't even truly understand what socialism really is.
That's true.
So they just say socialists. They just ring that bell, and everybody goes, "Oh, they're so bad. They're so bad." It's the new bleeding heart. They did that in the early 2000s. You're bleeding heart. It's just the way they dismiss people. And then when that didn't work, when the socialism argument didn't work, they pivoted back to well, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean to be racist. And then they started the whole go back to your own country, which is insane to me. The fact that they're trying to argue that was what they said in Vietnam when Trump didn't even fight in Vietnam is almost just, if it weren't so sad, it would kind of be a little funny.
Bone spurs,
yeah.
Go ahead, JD.
So, Amy, I'm the conservative part of Sharp and Shapiro. I'm JD Sharp. And it's it's really concerning to me that in this day and age where you have access to so much information that people can be as ignorant as they were at that rally and chant something like "send her back." And again, I'm a conservative, but it really surprises me that people are even now with all the information available to us via the internet, they still do that. That blows my mind, kind of.
Well, can I ask you, when you say that you're a conservative, what does that mean to you now, post-Trump?
Honestly, at this point, it's more issue-based. I would say I'm probably more libertarian than anything else. I'm very fiscally conservative, economically conservative, but I do think that Trump's rhetoric is that sometimes just completely ridiculous, as well as his demeanor and the way he handles himself. But I do support him on a lot of different issues. So it's more issue-based and kind of circumstantial than anything else.
Right. Well, the fact that the GOP is currently spending money at record levels and they're not conserving that money it doesn't even follow a typical conservative rhetoric.
Amy,
and I think you can make the argument that Trump also himself is not a conservative.
Right.
Amy, I'm so glad you brought that up, Amy, because all these Republicans were talking about the deficit during the Obama years, but why is it that these Republicans all of a sudden they don't want to talk about it now?
Well, when you say all these Republicans, I'm assuming you mean the leadership because his base just follows. Yeah, his base just follows whatever he says. So I would guess because it's working for them. You know, it's serving their personal interests. When they deregulate, they open up opportunities for themselves to go make money.
Right. No, I agree. If you're just joining us, Amy Vanderpool, BBC analyst, also writes the Shapiro newsletter and a contributor to Playboy Magazine. So let's move on now to some more news that came out today that is certainly not positive for Donald Trump. I don't know if you got a chance to see this FBI report that came out in regards. They're saying that Donald Trump and his press secretary were directly involved in discussions that led to the illegal hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Now, look, any logical, non-biased person knows that Donald Trump was involved. But, you know, listen, say what you want about Michael Avenatti. People can say what they want. Michael Avenatti was proven right today in this report. And that should be shown, and people should be talking about that. Donald Trump, Sarah Sanders, Don Jr., Fox News, all these other people that called, you know, Michael Avenatti, all these other people liars. Well, they have egg on their face now.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to defend Michael Avenatti, but I will say that it's even worse than that because the transcripts that have since come out show that Hope Hicks actually made statements in congressional testimony and behind closed doors on the record that were false. She's going to have a chance to clarify it. Naylor sent out a letter asking for clarification. But they asked her on the record if she was ever part of a conversation, if she was present, that was the word that was used, if she was present for any conversation on that issue with Cohen and Trump, and she flat out said she wasn't. And now we have proof that she was, in fact, present. I mean, there's going to be a legal argument about what the definition of present means in this context and on and on and on. But she's going to have to do some clarifying, and she's going to have her lawyers go in and kind of mend this, because lying in front of a congressional panel, as you know, is a felony, and it's a really big deal.
Isn't it? I mean, it seems obvious to me that they did break campaign finance violations. So if that's the case, first of all, do you believe that, number one? And number two, why are the Democrats, the leadership, not going after him for that?
Well, I absolutely believe he did, because it's Trump. But the reason they're not pushing on that issue, and who knows what's going to happen, but you know, I think that on the one hand, it appears like Democrats aren't moving, but you have to realize that the only way they're able to move in the manner they're kind of gridlocked in is to go to the courts. So they have to ask for what they want, and then when they're denied, they have to start legal proceedings. And they've gone to the courts on a lot of issues that aren't being discussed, and then those rulings come down, and the courts are finding in favor of the Democrats over and over and over, which forced the issue. So I think the fact that the Mueller report said ultimately that they were going to follow the precedent established by the DOJ that a sitting president can't be indicted for criminal charges means that we're sort of on pause. It doesn't mean that charges won't be brought once Trump leaves office, and it doesn't mean that he's immune, because let's also look at the fact that if he did break the law, and if that can be proven, it would have been done before he took his oath of office, and he would have assumed the presidency, which means that's fair game.
Yeah.
So just because we're not, knee deep in it at this moment doesn't mean we're not going to be the second he leaves office.
And we should also point out that, if he loses the election, he can still be convicted of some of these crimes, from what I understand. Let's move on to 2020, the election, as I just mentioned. We've all watched the debates. We got more debates coming up here. I believe right now, and I know JD agrees with me on this one, we both believe that right now, if you ask both of us who has the best chance to beat Donald Trump, and I know a lot of people would disagree with us on this, but I think it's Kamala Harris.
Including Michael Avenatti.
Yeah, but I think it's Kamala Harris. I really do. The fact that she's extremely intelligent, that she's a former prosecutor, very good on the debate stage, and, she's African-American and a female. I think that would hurt Donald Trump, and I just don't see Joe Biden or any other Democrat on that stage that can beat him. What do you see on this? Do you agree or disagree with that assessment?
That's interesting that you guys like Kamala. I like Kamala Harris a lot, too. I like a lot of the current runners. You know what I really like about where we are now in the debate, or not the debate, but in the process, is that we have so many good candidates who are so talented, and there are clearly going to be a few that really just take off and become the front runners. And I think we're seeing snippets of who those people are going to be. You talked about Biden and Warren and Harris. I think those three are really our most viable options. But what's going to happen is all of these juicy debates with all these really great people are going to kind of bring those leaders to the forefront. They're going to fine-tune them. They're going to make them better. So I really like where we are with all of this competition. I know a lot of people don't, but I enjoy it. As far as, this is the tricky thing, as far as predicting who's going to be best to beat Trump, that's difficult to say because we haven't thought about who's going to be the best person to stand on that stage with him and whose kind of style and ability is going to counter him and kind of really emphasize what he's doing the most. Because keep in mind, we need to really be speaking to, diehard Democrats, they know what they're going to do. They're going to vote for whoever is going against Trump. And I believe a lot of independents, like yourself, they're committed to doing that as well.
Right.
And we know that Trump's base is going to turn out for him, right? So what we're really looking at is we need the people who haven't voted to get off the couch, and we need the people who possibly haven't been involved before but could be a vote. We need to pull them in. So the key is who is going to be best at showing that they need to get up for the first time and go vote. Who's going to stand on that stage with Trump, and who's going to really make the case that a vote needs to go against him and a vote needs to go for. Because any candidate of those three that we've discussed would be an excellent president. Let's be honest. All three of them are great. They're all qualified. They're all talented. Of course, I have my favorites, but they'd all be great. But who is going to really show up Trump on that stage?
Well, let me
style and ability.
Yeah, and let me ask you this because I might pull back a little bit there. I respect Joe Biden. Don't get me wrong. The man,
sure.
I respect him. He's had some difficult situations in his life. He's done a lot of good things in his life. I respect the man. I don't like the way he handled the Kamala Harris situation. And if that's how he handles the situation with Harris, how the hell is he going to handle a situation on the stage with Donald Trump? That was very concerning to me.
Yeah, and I worry about
agree.
I worry about Joe Biden's age. I worry about his energy and his enthusiasm. You watch that first debate, Kamala Harris had significantly more energy than Joe Biden did. Also, Bernie Sanders, he's pushing 77, 78 years old. Do you believe that the left is almost becoming too left just to be the opposite of Donald Trump?
No, I don't. I think that there are people that are just still. I don't know about that. I think that a lot of people are kind of hungry for fresh blood too, meaning that they want to see a bright, energetic person who can seem strong. And I agree with you absolutely about Biden. I also think that their temperaments, they're different people, but their temperaments and their reactionary temperaments are so similar that it's just going to be, like a pissing contest between two guys that nobody really wants to see anymore. They're both going to get heated. They're both going to, be wagging their finger, and they're both going to be doing that, hey, let's take it outside and fight this out like real men kind of nonsense that we just need to evolve past.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you on that front. I think that Biden has really mishandled a lot of really key things, not just the Kamala Harris issue, but some really big issues with regard to just how he's respecting other candidates and how women haven't liked some things and how he's just refused to acknowledge that. It's like he can't acknowledge things as quickly as he needs to. And things have changed. I mean, the last time he ran for something, the cycle was much different. It was a lot slower. It was a whole different world. And the game has completely changed. And it's like he can't keep up with it.
And I think that Trump has to, he calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe or whatever. What's he going to call Kamala Harris? I think he has to approach it. He can't attack her for being a woman. He can't attack, because that's what he does is attack. He can't attack her for being a woman of color, certainly. He has to actually run on issues. And I think that in on a debate stage against Kamala Harris, I think Donald Trump is actually in some serious trouble. But against Joe Biden is basically Donald Trump light without the brand or the charisma or the enthusiasm. So I think that Kamala Harris, especially after what happened with the squad, with Omar and Ocasio-Cortez and Presley and Tlaib, et cetera, I think that it really actually it actually helped Kamala Harris a lot if she does get the Democratic nomination as far as going against Donald Trump.
It did. It's galvanizing for the base for sure. But here's another thing you need to consider. And I'm not saying this as, dissuading anything from supporting Harris, but the reality is, with Pascal mentioning today that these attacks are going to continue because it's what really unites his base. I mean, their whole basically, he said today, their strategy is racism, and they're going to keep doing it, and they're going to keep escalating it. It's not going anywhere. So if Harris is the candidate, you can expect to see attacks like he's waged against the squad ladies through the entire thing. And it's just going to get uglier and uglier. And, that footage we saw from the North Carolina rally that was really, really disturbing, where they were chanting, send her home or whatever. That is going to be amplified, and it's going to be a powder keg, and it's going to get bad. Now, I'm not saying this in any way to say, so we shouldn't back Kamala, because, of course, that's actually all the more reason to back Kamala, to stand up against it and to fight it. And, I just don't know if it's going to turn people off from the entire process or if it's going to do the opposite and drive people to the polls.
Well, Amy, I'll tell you something. We'd love to have you on again. Great job. I want to give you a chance to plug some of the stuff you're working with, including Shapiro. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How do we find you on social media?
Sure. I'm at Girls Really Rule on Twitter. You can always follow me there. And I write the Shapiro newsletter on Substack.com, where I'm trying to really show a strong female perspective in my writing that discusses all of the issues that particularly affect women, but that men deal with as well on the political, legal, and just all around popular social culture front.
And let me just say, there are too many men in politics, okay? I'm just going to say that right now. We need more of a female perspective, not just on this show, but throughout the country. And, that's why I'm right now at this point, I'm supporting Kamala Harris. And we'd love to have you on again sometime soon, Amy. Great job. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Amy.
There you go. Amy Vanderpool, from BBC, a BBC analyst, also writes, as she said, for Shapiro newsletter.
Also related to Audrey Hepburn.
Yes. We should have asked her about that next time. Right?
Absolutely next time.
Look, guys, make no mistake about it. The guy coming up next, he's a big Trump supporter. And I want to get his take on it. Well, I want to get his take on a lot of things. That would be Steve Sanchez. But what Trump has done in the last few days, make no mistake about it, folks, it is a complete and utter disgrace. First of all, he talks about these women. He talks about... JD, what are you doing? We got to go to break first, man. What are you doing? JD, you got to look at the clock, man. You're distracting me. It's 25 after. We're having him on after the break. We're not going to have him on 2 minutes before we break. What are you doing, man? Help me out here. You okay? You all right, JD?
I'm perfectly fine.
It takes a lot to distract me, but when you're opening up a door, we're 3 or 4 minutes before going to break, and you were trying to get him in the studio.
I am. I was letting him know that we're ready to go.
Okay.
After the break.
Yeah. You got it. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. All right. What was I talking about? I just lost my train of thought.
I can't remember.
Was I talking about Skittles? What was I talking about? I don't remember.
Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, that was
Playboy contributions.
Yes, I was talking about that.
Twitter.
Yeah. Yep.
Your new car.
But no, definitely wasn't talking about that. But coming up in the next segment, as I mentioned, we're going to have Steve Sanchez in studio, national talk show host. And, listen, it started with go back to your country, the Trump comments on Twitter. Okay. Then it goes into North Carolina at a campaign rally where the crowd is chanting, send her back. Anybody, and I mean anybody, who condones that chant is a racist. I am going to flat out say it out right now. You are a racist if you condone that chant. Now, Donald Trump today said he didn't condone it. In fact, he disavowed. But he also lied.
I would say that
you lied.
I would say that you're definitely ignorant.
Well, that's what racism is.
Extremely ignorant.
That's what racism is.
If you condone that chant. Now, what if the chant was kick her out?
That's different.
In regards to,
that's not
Congress.
Racist. That's completely different.
Would you be okay with that?
That's completely different.
But would you be fine with that?
Yes, 100%.
It should have been kick her out. Because honestly, she has
I don't have a problem with that.
It's been basically proven that she pretended to marry her brother
I don't have a problem.
to get into the United States, the way.
I mean,
she has no business being in Congress. None.
Okay, but she's still an American citizen, and that hasn't been established.
I'm not arguing that.
Okay, but that's a completely different thing, what you're chanting. Yes, kick her out, that means, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But, sending her out of the country, that's racist. The president today disavowed, and he said, well, I don't agree with it. And then he went on and he said, I talked quickly, to try to, move on and try to get the chant to stop. He lied. That's not true. We have the audio of it. He paused like a dummy for 13 seconds, allowed it to go on, didn't say a word. I played that John McCain audio. And the reason why I played that John McCain audio is to show you what leadership is, to show you what class is. Donald Trump has zero class. When that ignorant woman took that microphone, when John McCain was running for president, And she called Barack Obama an Arab because she is a moron, just like many of the morons that were at that North Carolina rally, or racist, whatever you want to call them. John McCain grabbed that microphone immediately from her. You know what a leader does on that stage that disavows a chant?
And do you know why?
No, but do you know what a leader does on that stage that disavows a chant?
He stops
immediately, he stops. Thank you. And you're a Republican. He stops it. Now, let me ask you a question, JD. I know you're going to. Do you think he did everything he could to stop that chant?
He didn't obviously do everything he could to stop the chant. That's abundantly clear at this point. And the reason that John McCain did what he did when he did is because when it comes about race, it's not good for the United States. It's not good for America.
Mm-hmm.
It is never good for the country when it is all about race, because then issues are out the window and there's a giant bias with that's typically very, very unsubstantiated.
I agree. And I had a conversation with a very, very highly noted Democrat. Let's just put it like that. We had a private conversation, and this gentleman told me, this is a man who almost ran for president. He told me on the phone today, if Kamala Harris is running for president, this is going to be the ugliest political war we have ever seen in our lifetime.
And that's 1,000% true.
Race, gender, everything.
You
want to talk about everything across the board? It will not get more ugly than if Kamala Harris runs for president. And I'm not blaming her for that.
And I don't think that Donald Trump is racist. I do think that there are a lot of underground racists in this country towards African Americans and other races, and a lot of them are Caucasian. And this is their opportunity to kind of shine.
Yeah.
They're taking an opportunity to express themselves. They didn't have before when Barack Obama was president, or even George Bush. They're now I do believe that Donald Trump is enabling a couple of those people to take the opportunity.
I'm not about whataboutism, okay, but there's a reason why I played that John McCain audio, because I do think that's important. On this show, we talk about the subjects of the last 24 hours or maybe of the last week, and that's what we were going to focus on here today. I'm not talking about Barack Obama. I'm not talking about the Clintons. I'm not talking about George W. Bush. We are talking about Donald Trump and his administrations and the Democrats that are in office, and it is going to be an all-holds-barred war right now coming up in the next hour. Radio war. Steve Sanchez, the man who's replacing us for 2 hours, he's coming up next on the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.